Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing Bookbeam, which, to be honest with you, is becoming, or quite quickly becoming, one of my favorite publishing tools. For those of you who've been doing publishing a little bit, or maybe are new to this, there are kind of many different tools out there to help with the keyword research process of publishing, but just also generally to make publishing a little bit easier than it would be without these tools. There's tools, for example, KDP, Publisher Rocket, Bookbeam, what else is there? Helium 10, Keywords Everywhere. There's loads and loads of different tools. For the longest time, I absolutely loved Publisher Rocket, but just recently, I think Bookbeam is maybe kind of in the lead now, to be honest with you, because it is a very, very all-encompassing tool. It has so many features. So what we're going to be doing, because there are so many tools, we're going to basically be breaking this into 3 videos. It'll be a part 1, part 2, part 3. So this is part 1, and we're going to discuss, or we're going to go through in detail with you 3 of the features in today's video, then 3 in the next one, and then 3 in the next one as well.
And for those of you who are new to the channel, I'm Angelina and this is Chris, and we usually bring out videos every single week on KDP and all things self-publishing, so don't forget to subscribe if you guys are into that. Alright, so we've just hopped into the Bookbeam app on our laptop. We're going to go ahead and take you through these top 3 today. So we've got the book tracker, niche finder, and the keyword research tool. And for today's video, will also just hop into Amazon really quickly just to show you the Chrome extension, because that's also a really cool quick tool that you can use with Bookbeam.
And just to say, guys, so this is how we personally use Bookbeam. Yes, there might be additional things which other people use it for, but this is just our kind of personal experience using it. So let's get on into it then, shall we? So book tracker, first of all, a really, really useful tool. So essentially you're able to track a book's kind of success over, well, the plan that we're currently on for a year. So there's 3 different plans. So we're on the basic plan, and you can track a book's BSR ranking for up to a year. I think the pro plan you can track all time. So what we've done here is you can just load up a book. So you can just click track new. You can either put the ASIN or you can put the book's URL. Literally any book on Amazon you can do this for. Then you want to select the marketplace. So we make around about 80, maybe 90% of our sales on Amazon.com, which is the US market. So that's kind of where we're primarily doing our research. Obviously, if you speak Spanish or French, or your primary marketplace is not .com, then obviously choose down here, from the list down here. And then either choose Amazon or Audible. So if you're doing audiobooks, then obviously you can choose Audible, and books or Kindle. So again, we make most of our money on the books rather than the ebooks, because non-fiction tend to do much better on books than ebooks. So once you've done that, you can just click start tracking, and that's what we did for this book here. So once it loads up, well, actually you can see a summary of all the important points here. So first of all, the estimated monthly royalty. So this book's doing very well, almost $5,000 per month on just one book. And this is its BSR ranking, and then the trend we can look at in further detail if we open up the reviews, and then the price as well. So if we just open this up here, as I said, we can look up to a year in the past. So this is the point of view I really mostly look at, to be honest with you. So as you can see, back in December, it wasn't ranking too well. And then throughout most of the year, it's ranking very well, up in the top kind of 10,000 in the world, which is a very, very good BSR ranking. So why the BSR ranking tracker is so good is because you can look at how a book tracks over time, and to see if there's any seasonal dips, or to see if there's any times of the year where a book does particularly well. Because if you just take a snapshot of a book, let's just say you see a book ranking, let's say it's not doing very well. So let's say 150,000, it's not making many sales a day, but there might be a reason for that. It might be because at that time of year, or that specific time of year that you're looking at, there's no demand for the book. Let's just say a Thanksgiving coloring book. If you're looking at that in December, it's probably not going to look too good at all. But if you looked at it in, let's say, September or even August, you'll probably find that that ranking is doing much better. So it's good to look at it over time.
All right, another thing that we really like to do with this feature is, comparing different books to each other. So pretty much the same keywords, kind of, or the same, at least similar topics that you want to compare to. Obviously, you shouldn't be comparing like random books and random niches, because that doesn't make sense. But you can kind of see the sales history, or the BSR ranking history, I guess, of these books, and kind of compare them together and see whether or not the niche as a whole kind of has like the same trend, or like, for example, with the with the example Chris gave of like certain books having dips at certain times, you can look and see if all the books had dips at the same time, or if maybe just that one book had a dip. So it kind of helps you like see trends in certain keywords, and also just make sure that you are getting like a more holistic overview of the keyword as a whole, as opposed to just one single book.
And then just to say, so for this example, it could be that obviously this one is selling very, very well. So this is the top 10,000, and then this one is very, very sporadic. So you got like a high here of 91,000, and then a low down here of 1.2 million. So selling pretty much nothing at all. So then you got to think, well, is it the fault of the niche itself? Like, is speed reading just not a very good niche, or is there something to do with the individual books as to why one's selling very well and one's not selling very, very well? So then if we go on to Amazon and we actually look at both the books, so this is the one that's not selling very well. So just a first impressions overview, this one's only got a rating of 4.2, and it's only got 8 ratings, so not many ratings, and actually quite poor ratings. Also, it doesn't have A+ content down here, which is extra graphics you can put on the page. Whereas if we were to go on to this book here, which is the one we also looked at, it's got 2,700 ratings. It's got a higher rating overall. There's A+ content. This is the graphics here. It just looks overall better, overall more professional. Obviously, why it's selling well. So yeah, that's kind of a good tool, or a good way you can use this tool.
All right, another cool thing that you can do within the book tracker itself is actually go in and look for specific keyword rankings. So we don't personally actually use this that much, which is why we don't have any data to show you guys, because we kind of typically just go into the keyword or the niche itself and actually just look manually, really. But what you can do, as you can see here, is you can track a keyword basically, and you type in whatever keyword you're tracking. And basically what you can do is, so for example, this book is a mindfulness coloring book for adults. So we've typed in coloring book for adults, and it will track the keyword rankings. Essentially what it does is it tells you what that book is ranking like on the page. So not like the BSR, but like the actual spot that it's ranking for on the page. So for example, when you actually click on see history, usually it'll tell you that'll be like a number 1 spot to like a 50+. So number 1 basically means it's showing up first for that keyword. So not necessarily a BSR, but it's just ranking at the top of the page for that specific keyword. Or like number 10 would be, it'd be on the 10th spot of that keyword specifically. So you can basically add all the keywords that you think this book might be showing up for, or you want to see the data for it pretty much. But once you add all those keywords, you'll be able to track them against each other as well, and see basically which keywords the book is ranking the best for, and what spots it is in for all of those different keywords. So it's a really cool feature as well, because yeah, it can give you an idea of how well that book is doing for that specific keyword as well.
Then next on to statistics. So it's not showing up, but this one should show up. Okay, so next just on to, so after keywords rankings, then on to statistics. So this is really nice. It gives you a glimpse of all the important metrics that you need to know, rather than having to go onto Amazon and then look individually for them. So first of all, 7-day average rank of the BSR ranking, and then the 30-day average rank as well. So obviously the 30-day is better than the 7-day. Over a longer period of time, you don't get so much peaks and troughs, and it kind of evens out a little bit more. And obviously BSR is important to know, because from that you can work out the profitability of a book, how many sales it's making, etc. And then the trend is just a basically how it is from the 7-day to the 30-day. So over the 30-day, it's actually much better compared to the 7-day. So this book in particular is doing worse over the last 7 days than it has been doing over the last 30 days. Hence, they're not minus 35% downward trend. The royalty per unit. So this is important because a lot of the other tools that are out there will just say how much money a book is making based on the BSR ranking and based on the actual listing price on Amazon, but that's not the accurate way to actually work out the royalty, because the royalty needs to take into consideration the listing price and then Amazon's cut. So Amazon takes 40%, but then also the printing costs as well, which is usually about probably between $2 and $2.50. So if this book is listed at $12.56, after they take 40% and they take let's say $2, you're then left at $4.99 royalty per unit. High selling month is in May, so that's interesting. A lot of time it will be December because that is holiday period, but this book obviously May does very well. And the lowest that's interesting. So the lowest selling month is actually December, which is very, very interesting, because normally your sales will peak a lot for all books in December. And then also seasonal, yes or no. So this one is not seasonal in terms of its sales. That kind of makes sense because it's a speed reading book, and there's unlikely to be a time of the year where people are wanting to learn more about speed reading than others.
Seasonal is mostly just going to be for things like coloring books, or not coloring books, but like things that are about a specific thing, like a Christmas coloring book obviously is going to do better at Christmas time, or or something that's maybe like summer based for like gardening and that sort of thing. So yeah. And
then the age, we're a bit confused here because usually this does work, but we know this book's not 53 years old. We'll just ignore that for now, but most of the time the age is fine. So the age is right. So knowing the age is good because it kind of shows you how well your books can do for a long period of time. And if, let's say, this book's selling really well and it has been out for the last like 5 or 6 or 7 years, it shows you that this book has longevity and therefore potentially a good niche to get into, because this book can sell for 5 or 6 years. There's no reason why you can't get a book established in ranking and then it sell for the next 5 or 6 years after that.
All right, so we've just got a really easy one with the review history tracker. So essentially, obviously, you can just pick whichever time frame you want to see, but it tells you basically the actual average star rating. So this one's kind of remained at a 4.5 star over the last year. But as you can see, the number of reviews went from 1,900 to about 2,800. And something that this is beneficial for is basically comparing it to like the BSR rankings. So for example, if a book has been out for a year and the BSR ranking at the beginning of the year was really bad, you can come and look at the review history and see if maybe at the beginning of the year when it was first released it didn't have any reviews and that's why it was selling so badly, and then you can see whether or not the actual BSR increased related to the number of reviews. So you want to see if there's that kind of correlation there to make sure that because obviously it makes sense for a book to do better the more reviews that it gets. So if a book is like for some reason selling worse while the BSR is going up, you might want to look into other factors, see if maybe the niche is not necessarily a good one to get into even though the book has plenty of reviews. So it can kind of give you, again, just a more holistic overview of how well a book might be doing and why it's doing well.
And most of the time it will do better with more reviews. That's kind of from our experience, that's tend to be what happens anyway. But yeah, it's important to know if it's not, then why is it not?
Exactly.
And then just lastly is the latest reviews. So they've actually pulled the latest reviews on here. I guess quite good to know, not too great, to be honest with you, but I guess a nice feature. I guess the only good thing about this is, part of our strategy anyway when we're publishing books is we want to look at our competitors' reviews, see what they're doing well, see what they're not doing well by the good reviews and then the bad reviews, and then from this then we can make our book better by implementing what they have done well and then improving on the things that they haven't done well. So you probably wouldn't use it from these reviews here. You'd probably then go to Amazon like we're doing now, then go down, and then what we would do, maybe it's a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but essentially what we'd do is go to the 1-star reviews, have a read of them and see what they've done poorly, and then the 5-star reviews as well, and also the 3 stars. Okay, so that is essentially the book tracking feature. A very, very good feature, and they kind of keep improving it all the time. You have also Kindle and audiobook, so you can look at those 2 features as well.
All right, so the next thing we're looking at is the niche finder. So this is a cool tool because it has all these parameters basically that you can set in order to look into a specific keyword or niche and basically see how other books are doing, or if there are other books selling basically with the parameters that you've given it. So basically you start off with the marketplace, obviously, so you can do whichever marketplace you are particularly looking into. The US market obviously is usually the biggest, so that's typically where we always do our research anyways. And then with the preset, you can set it to different types of things. So it has some low content stuff that you can choose if you're wanting to do like journals, notebooks, and planners, word search, coloring books, or you can obviously just stick to the sort of high content self-published books. So yeah, you don't have to necessarily select anything for these, but we just usually click none and then set the parameters down here. So with the bestsellers rank, we usually just do like a minimum of just 1, obviously, because you want to see if there's anything that's all the way up to the number 1 best-selling book, and then we usually set just whatever upper limit we're looking for. So for this example, 50,000 sounds good. And the rest of these are actually optional, but we usually like to put in a number for reviews as well, just because that is kind of how you look into competition and how you know whether or not you can compete in a niche by getting that number of reviews. So obviously then you're going to have a keyword as well. So for this example, we'll just do gardening, and then you can select a category as well, but usually based on the keyword you put anyways, it kind of will it'll pull the data that will make sense for that keyword anyways. Like if you type in gardening, you're probably not going to get any books that show up from like business and money. So you don't necessarily have to choose this, and it'll just basically, as it says, give you a broader search if you don't select anything. But basically, once you've set everything you want to set, you can just click find books. And then below it, firstly, it'll give you like these little quick stats up here. So the average BSR of the books that it's given you, average number of reviews, and the average price. And so you can see here, it's only going to give you books that are, again, within the parameters that you set. And it kind of just can give you a good idea of how books are selling for whatever niche that you've entered or whatever specific keyword that you've entered. So you can kind of just go through and see, first of all, what types of books there actually are, because gardening is quite broad, to be honest. So what you can do with this is go through and see like what types of books essentially are related to it. So like, for example, this is a cool book. It's about greenhouse gardening specifically, so you could potentially look into that as a niche. Or, for example, raised bed gardening or the science of gardening. So, as you can see, it does a few things. It can give you different ideas for different keywords and niches to get into, and you can also look and see like the actual BSR ranking. And as you can see, you can just break it down based on time frame as well.
So yeah, then once you kind of know a particular niche you want to get into, you can then get more specific with this tool. So let's just say we saw the greenhouse gardening example. So if we wanted to do that, so we'll type in greenhouse gardening as our keyword. Might put the parameters a little bit higher because it's a slightly more niche topic, so therefore there might not be as many books in that 50,000 range, so hence the 100,000. We'll keep it to self-published, and we'll keep everything else the same, and then we're just going to click find books. So now we've only got 3 books, so a lot more niche, but as you can see, they're all ranking under 100,000, all selling pretty well, to be fair, and all of them haven't really got that many reviews. So just from literally 5 minutes of research, we could already potentially have a topic which could be a good one to get into, and also could be quite a profitable one and fairly doable to get into, considering the low amount of reviews and the high estimated monthly royalties for all of these books. So every single one's over $500 per month. And also it's really, really good for low content books. So if we actually then go on to click, for example, let's do top selling self-published colouring books. And then let's just say we want to do, what we can do is just leave it at colouring book. Go from 1 to 35,000, and then just do reviews here. So let's just say we're starting out in self-publishing and you're looking for a colouring book niche to get into, and you don't want to get to too many reviews in order to compete. We could therefore just put not 5, we could just put 50 reviews in here and then click find books. And this is really cool. So what it's basically going to show us is what colouring books are selling really, really well with a low amount of reviews. So for example, this one, White Elephant Gifts for Adults, only 1 review, and it's ranking 242 BSR. So a good strategy which you could use is to go through this list and just start jotting down all the different ideas that are selling well with low reviews. And then at the end, you should have a long list of good selling colouring books, and then you can create your own colouring book based on one of these. So yeah, that's kind of how we use the niche finder. So very, very useful tool. And then finally onto the keyword research tool. Again, another very important tool. It has it for Amazon and for Audible, so for your audiobooks as well, which is great. Let's just say we were on the gardening niche like we were before. So if we just type in gardening here, so this is great because it's going to show us a lot of different data points, a lot of different metrics, and also suggest other keywords to do with our main keyword. So if our main book's on gardening, this will just show us other keywords that we might not otherwise have thought of, and then also show us, importantly, the search one. And this is where I'm kind of most interested in for this tool, basically. So I'll just let it load and then we'll go through it one by one. So it's just now pulled all the data. So what we need to do in order to have a closer look at each of these keywords data is just click on get keyword data. So let's just go for gardening for beginners. It does take a little bit of time to load. So essentially what it's going to show us here is lots of different things. So starting right to left here. So first of all, competition score. This is essentially how many books you'll be competing against if you were to publish a book on gardening. So it's a score from 0 to 10. Obviously 10 is good, 0 is bad. So this is showing here that it's quite a competitive overall niche to get into. Then your demand score here, again, 0 is bad, 10 is good. So this is a moderate demand score, and this opportunity score here is a score which is basically combining demand and competition, and it's the overall score here. So if we're looking at this on the surface, if you're going to publish a book about gardening, it's probably not the best one to get into, considering the low opportunity score here. And this is the main category which your book will be in, which makes sense because there is a gardening subcategory in the overall crafts, hobbies and home main category. So this is the main category here, and then gardening is a subcategory within this one. So next we have the average age. So this is saying that the average age of the books on the first page is 5 years. So this just shows that the books with gardening in the title on the first page, they've been out for quite a while. So it might be difficult to get yourself established because there's some good selling books which have been selling for quite a while on that first page.
On the same token, though, that kind of shows that there's longevity within it. So if you can get competing, it can show that you also can get a book for selling for 5 years or however long.
Yeah, good point. And then on to the distribution format. So on the first page, this is showing you how many of the books are paperback version, audiobook version, or Kindle version as they're listed on Amazon. So this is showing that only 6 are paperback and 1 is audiobook. We're not too sure, so it's actually not working correctly at the moment. This is usually more accurate. This says 6 out of 16, so you usually do get a higher number here, but I'm not sure why it's not putting the data correctly for this one. Why this might be useful, because if, for example, you are searching a particular keyword and the majority of the books are Kindle books, then you might want to kind of turn your focus to promoting mainly your Kindle book, your ebook, as opposed to your paperback, and also vice versa as well. So if you can see most of them are paperbacks, that's where you want your focus to be. And also, if you see there's lots of audiobooks selling well, then if you haven't already, you probably then should think about getting your book converted into an audiobook. And we kind of do recommend that for most books, to be honest with you, because it's an additional stream of income for not too much cost and not too much effort. So that's quite useful. And then title density. So this is how many books on the first page have gardening in its title. It says only 6 here. I'm guessing because it's only pulling 6. It's only pulling data from 6 books here. I think if it was pulling data correctly, I think it'd be more than that. So to be honest with you, probably not that useful because it kind of makes sense that all the books on the first page to do with gardening are going to have gardening in the title. But for some instances, I can't think off the top of my head why it would be useful, but I'm sure it is in some circumstances.
All right, so just moving on, we've got the average price basically for the results on the first page. So this is just kind of an interesting way to kind of look and see what the other books are selling at. It can give you an idea of maybe what you should start your book at around, and it can just give you an idea of what you can potentially price your book at within the niche. And then the average number of reviews for that keyword as well. So this is quite high, but again, it just gives you an idea as to how many reviews you might need to get in order to show up on the first page and actually get your book doing well. And then
can I just say as well, it may kind of make sense because the overall niche we're looking at here is gardening, which is quite broad. So the more broad your niche, the higher number of reviews you can generally expect within that niche. Yeah. If we were to go down for something like that's more niche, the number of reviews will be less, and that's kind of why we normally say is to try and start, or at least when you're first starting out, in a niche which is a bit more specific, so then you can actually more easily rank by getting a lower number of reviews.
Yeah. And then the number of competitors. So this is essentially just showing you the number of search results that show up for that keyword. So when you type in gardening, obviously there's going to be a lot more than, for example, as you can see here, gardening for beginners is 20,000. So something that's kind of important to note about search results as well, though, is that after you get past like the first several pages, a lot of the stuff that shows up might not actually necessarily be about that. So to be honest, we don't personally pay that much attention to the search results because we kind of use our other metrics as a means to get into the first page anyway. So to be honest, we just don't personally really use it that much. And then the search volume. So again, as Chris said, this is probably the most important one because this is really showing you how many people are kind of looking for that book topic. So you obviously want to make sure that you're choosing keywords that have a high search volume, because if nobody's searching for that keyword, then your book is never going to be seen. And obviously thus you're not going to make any sales. So you want to make sure you have, I would say we usually say around like 700, 800 and up is better. And obviously the more the better, but sometimes also when you have something that is too high of a search volume, so if you get like something that has like 10,000 search volume, then it might almost also kind of insinuate that there's maybe too much competition because there's going to be way too many people looking for that specific book. So that is also kind of why you tend to see less search volume the more specific you get. But when you're getting more specific, you're kind of calling out to a more specific audience. So it's kind of that balance of making sure that you're specific enough to where you're calling out to a specific audience, but it's still got enough search volume, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so I guess your ideal scenario would be a good opportunity score here. So a high score here, 7+. And if that is combined also with a high search volume, that's kind of your golden ticket. That's where the really, really profitable niches basically are. That means you don't need to get many reviews to get ranking, and your book can start selling sooner, and you can establish yourself within that niche fairly easily. So yeah, this probably wasn't the best example, gardening, but obviously that's kind of the point of keyword research. You're not going to fall upon a really good niche the first time of trying. You want to try a lot of keywords before you really start to narrow down and find those really profitable niches. So definitely. It's a kind of a game of trial and error, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And obviously the more research you do, the more likely you're going to be to find those specific keywords. So yeah, that kind of wraps up this video, guys. We went through the first 3, and again in the next video we will go through the next 3, but hopefully that was helpful. It's a really good tool. Feel free to go and check it out. We'll leave the link below if you want to go try it out for yourself. But it is really one of the most holistic tools I think that we have personally come across when it comes to self-publishing, obviously specifically within Amazon KDP. So we've been finding it very useful, and hopefully you can too.
Yeah, and don't forget the part 2 and part 3 to this video will be down in the description and also in the comments as well. So check that out.